Welcome back. In my last class I told you that I was going to talk about trigger squeeze, trigger control. Now I'm going to talk solely about single action trigger squeezes, not double action trigger squeeze. We'll talk about that some other time. Single action trigger squeeze is sometimes very much misunderstood. You know, I've very frequently, the first thing I'll do is I'll pass a handgun around the class, and after it's been cleared, I'll pass the handgun around the class and I'll ask my students to cock and to squeeze that trigger, and that's what they do. I say, will you please just squeeze the trigger? That's what they do. Please, I said, just squeeze the trigger. And so they squeeze it, and most of the time I can't get somebody to simply press on the trigger. That's probably the best term, is to press on the trigger. In other words, you want to make sure that your trigger finger, the correct positioning of a single action trigger is on the pad, the center of your fingerprint. That bone right there is rounded on, there's a round ball on the end, and there's a joint right here which is also round, and in the middle it's concave, and that is a good position for your trigger to just nestle in. And so you should be on the center of your fingerprint. Your thumb should be relaxed, and you don't want to hold it out. You don't want to hold it up high. You don't want to do anything extraordinary with it. Just let it relax without squeezing, so that the thumb does not apply sideways pressure on the gun. Your trigger squeeze should be straight to the rear, right directly straight to the rear, back to your nose, and it should be pressed until it just goes off by itself. The best way to illustrate that would actually be to, use this spring gauge right here. You watch the spring gauge, and as I apply pressure, that gauge increases until it goes off. That's how you should be squeezing. You should be increasing the pressure, not just applying pressure all at once. Now, it can be done rather swiftly, such as this, or it can be done over a more extended period of time, like that. But however you do it, you're pressing on the trigger. You're not just squeezing it. You're not squeezing lemons here. You're pressing on the trigger until it gradually, what you're doing is you're increasing the pressure on your finger that starts out with mere less than an ounce. It keeps increasing. You keep adding weight to that, just as if I was pulling that spring gauge back. Keep applying that pressure. You'd be very surprised. A lot of times when I first give, a Smith & Wesson like this, or a Ruger handgun like this to somebody, and they've never felt a trigger like that before. This one's got about a 2 1/4 pound trigger, so they don't expect it, and they say, gee, that's a hair trigger, and I say, well, it's really not. It's you're lifting 2 1/4 pounds, so let's try pressing on the trigger. Then when they start really squeezing that trigger the way I tell them to, applying pressure gradually, they say, gee, that's actually harder than I thought, because they keep on squeezing and applying more and more pressure, and it's just not going off. So, the brain tells you funny things. The brain will one moment tell you that you have a hair trigger, but then when you really apply pressure ounce by ounce, building and increasing, you realize that there's a lot more pressure there than you thought. And that's perfectly okay. And that's why it doesn't bother me too much what kind of, whether I have a 2 1/2 pound trigger or a 3 1/2 or a 4 pound trigger. My 1911 has got about a 4 3/4 pound trigger, and that's perfectly fine because I just continue to squeeze on it. Now, that's the essence of good trigger control. Always remember to press, squeeze, apply pressure gradually. You know, and as time goes on, you can work on speeding that process up, so that in rapid fire, you can actually, in rapid fire, you can shoot. Remember, you have to shoot 5 shots in 10 seconds. So in that cadence, you'll have time to do it. And I'm still squeezing that trigger. So there you are. In my next video, my next class, I'm going to talk about actually how to position yourself. Natural point of aim is what we're going to call it. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. God bless.